Hello everyone, welcome back to modding NASCAR Thunder 2004. I have an update to the ModMaster tool that we're going to take a look at. I'm going to explain how to use. It is updating the schedule within the game. You can customize it fully now. This is much more feature rich than the Excel version that you may have been familiar with before that was limited and had problems. This works perfectly fine and has a lot less limitation to it. That said, if you're new here and you haven't watched our player tutorial before and you haven't used this tool before, I recommend you go and watch the player tutorial first and then come back to this video to understand how to update the schedule, because I'm assuming that you already have an understanding of how to use it as a player from that other tutorial. This is just an addition, a feature update. To use a custom schedule or make a custom schedule in a new tool, you load up what pack you want to use, you set up everything else the way you want for the start of the season, you hit finalize pack, and then on this screen it'll take you to the schedule screen instead of the finalize screen that you're used to. On the schedule screen, if you want to use a custom schedule, you click the checkbox, and then you have to make sure you enter at least one race. You can add them one race at a time, you can insert them when you have a bunch selected already, or you can remove the selected ones, or you can load an existing. I'm going to actually load, I have it saved as 2004 Cup, but this is actually not 2004 Cup currently. So I'm going to bring up the schedule from 2004. There's only a couple changes, but I'll just show you how to do them. I don't have a good way currently to move races to have them swap up or down. I thought about adding up or down arrow, but it's not too big a deal to do it to just add and remove. So I know this is all the same down to, I think Talladega and Martinsville need to swap. So I'm just going to remove Talladega and then click on California's row somewhere. You can select the whole row or be in it anywhere, it doesn't matter. And we're going to go down to Talladega, and we're going to hit insert race above selected, and you can see it put Talladega above Auto Club. Keep in mind these numbers on the left are for reference, because the shootout isn't a points race, so technically this is race 0, and the all-star races obviously aren't part of the race count, so those, just the same, they shouldn't have values. But to make this easier, this tool easier, I just left it go. The most races you can have in the schedule in NASCAR Thunder 2004 is 39. You technically can go to 114, which I did test, but when you go to 114, anything past 39, the 40th race onward, it just does not count the results. And if you simulate, it even shows you the results of the last race, but if you run the race, it just doesn't count them. They don't get added to points. They don't count towards anything. So they're technically non-points races. So you could do that, though I limited the tool to not allow it. Right now it's just 39 races maximum. And even though these races technically don't count towards that count, they actually do behind the scenes. Okay, I see there's actually a mistake I made in this one. There's Pocono twice, and this one should be Pocono 2. So we're going to go ahead and... You can start to type, when you select these, you can start to type the word. It'll take you to the first letter anyway. So we're going to hit Pocono 2 and then insert race. See, okay. That would exceed the limit. So I'm going to remove it first and then hit insert race. That puts the second Pocono race where it should be. Did the same with Michigan. Michigan 2, insert. But normally if you're building one from scratch, you'll just be selecting what you want, add race, select what you want, add race. There's not going to be any of this back and forth like I'm doing here. And I have a note here. This is what it's going to set for the 36 race schedule in the game. If you want to use the 24, the 12, I'm probably going to update the tool eventually to have a drop down for what schedule you're changing. But currently it's just going to update the 36 race schedule to be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be 36 races. It can be one race, and that's your whole season. You can set up however you want. But the problem with that is in career mode, the upgrades for your car are balanced based on the length of your season. So if you have a shorter season, it takes less time to do your upgrades and to improve your shop. So eventually I do want to make that a drop down so that if you want a shorter schedule and you want the career mode upgrades to, be aligned with that, then you'll be able to do so. Also, the All-Star events, you have to have the Open before the regular All-Star for it to work the way you would anticipate it. I don't know what happens if you put it after and have the Open later in the season and the All-Star the next year. I don't know how that works out. Same with moving the shootout. I think you could put the shootout anywhere, but as far as who's eligible for the shootout, I don't know how that changes with it being at different parts of the season, whether that actually updates it or not. California does. Now California only has the one race, and you totally can add duplicates. You can add duplicates, it'd be fine. Your entire schedule could be one track if you want. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of this new way that we're doing track swapping. So I'm going to actually just put California Night in the schedule. Alright, so now that's the 2004 schedule, at least as close as I could get it. Again, this California, I could easily put a second California day race in if I wanted to. I want to mention at this point the 100% lap override. So the races are, I think these are all accurate for distance. So this override, this output laps is based on what you selected in the basic options. So I think I had mine set to 20% instead of the 25%. So I select 25% in the game, but I have 20% race length is what it actually sets it to. But something like the shootout, for example, that's pretty short at 14 laps. So I'm going to force that to be... Now this number, whatever I type here, will override the 100% laps. So I'll force that to be 100, and you can see that recalcs to 20. So now my shootout is 20 laps. The All-Star Open, 6 laps is stupidly short. So let's... I mean, that still feels short to me. Yeah, we'll do 20 laps for the Open and 32 for the All-Star. I'm not sure how that splits it up segment-wise. It should still split it evenly. I've not tested this, or not evenly, but it should still split it the way you'd expect percentage-wise for the whole versus the whole race. The only reason I'm kind of confident about that is because the game itself, it has different race lengths already coded in. So maybe that'll work. It might split the segments based on 25% since that's what I've selected, which is going to make my last segment really long. But that's okay. Yeah, we'll do 150. We'll make it an even 30 there. Once you're happy with the schedule output, you just go ahead and hit Save Schedule As. And I'm going to call this one, I'm going to add my initials to this one because this is mine a little bit customized. So without those race lengths in here, I'm going to save it as the default for 2004 Cup. So 2004 Cup, save schedule as. So if I hit load, it should reload it. 2003. I have to fix the 2003 to be correct with the secondary races, but that's fine. I'll have that fixed before you guys have this in your hands. But if you want to make a new schedule and you want to run all the fantasy tracks, you could even run the speed zone tracks. But keep in mind, speed zone tracks do not have payouts. You will not make money in career mode. Maybe call that a challenge mode. You could do that. Also, I did notice one funky thing. I did try one race at one speed zone track, which was Daytona's. The AI pit every lap of the race. Every single lap they try to pit. So that might happen at all the speed zone tracks. I don't know for sure. I haven't tested them out. So use speed zone at your own risk. They're not meant for use, to my knowledge. But we could go ahead and run Tiburon as our opener. We could run Sawmill. We could run New York. You know, all the fantasy tracks. Also, I want to note, a lot of people don't realize, because there's night versions of a lot of the day tracks, Richmond has a day track. So I'm going to add Richmond Day because I like Richmond. Homestead 2002, why not? You know, you could make this schedule whatever you want it to be, and we'll cap it off at Daytona Beach. And there I have a 7-race schedule, and I could save this as fun schedule. And as I said, the only downside is in career mode, 7 races is you're not going to be able to do the upgrades efficiently with a 7-race season. However, I'm going to change that at some point, hopefully before the video, and have a drop down for whether it's 12, 24, or 36 races that you're overwriting a schedule for. Alright, but once that's done, once you're actually done with your schedule, you simply go to your finalize page and then generate your PNATCH. You can't do paints as well if you're doing that, but the PNATCH is what triggers the schedule update. The only thing is that every time you load from a pack and then hit finalize and wait, you're going to have to recheck your use custom schedule, and you're going to have to reload your schedule. You do have to do those steps every time just to make sure that everything's set the way it should be. I also want to note that if you add the same race in multiple times into the schedule and you change the race length or the payout, it is going to use the top value that you enter. If you enter other values below, it doesn't matter. Whatever the first entry is for that particular event is what the program's going to output. There's no way to make this change from one race to another necessarily. I guess you could technically come out and make a new PNATCH in between and change that value each time, but that would be quite a hassle to try to set up and try to do between each race. Another thing I want to mention is I did try to find a way to change the event names, and even though this data exists in the database tables, I could not find where it lives in hex memory, which is how we're editing all the values here with the cheat codes. So I don't have a way to change the race names. However, you still can change the race logos via the texture swapping. So even though it might not, in the menu say the correct race, at least the logos will be updated. That's about as best as we can do right now. I don't know that I'm ever going to find a way to do this without changing the actual database and ISO file, which is a whole other hassle that we're not going to get to, probably. Last minute add to this update. It wasn't visible earlier in the video, but I did allow a way to change the purse payout, and just as an example, just to show an extreme example, I changed the Daytona 500 to pay out $999 million. As you can see in the game, it does have that payout, and I now, finishing dead last in it, have $180 million in my bank after one race in career mode. I just wanted to use a really exaggerated example for it. The main reason I added this is that some of the race payouts, especially the fantasy tracks, have pretty flat numbers. Fantasy tracks are 300,000 flat. The speed zone tracks have 0. Although again, the speed zone tracks, I think the AI wants to pit every lap, so I'm not sure that there'll be much use regardless. But you can change the payout, and I just wanted to show that for you guys. Here, all you have to do is type in the value in the purse override, and that's all it takes. So if you want to update the payouts from year to year to be more accurate to real life, even though obviously both the equipment cost isn't going to change, you still can do that if you want to. Lastly, I want to cover changing schedules between seasons. So the way you want to do this in the game, you want to actually save your game before you hit new season to the memory card, and then just for a safety backup, you'd load the core pack for the new season if you're changing rosters, and you'd load the schedule for the new season if you're changing that as well. And then the finalize tab, you're going to generate your PNATCH. At least you don't have to do paints yet, but you can. And then in the game, you want to reload your cheats. You want to open the game settings, you want to go to your cheats page, you want to uncheck and recheck enable cheats, hit reload cheats as well so that it refreshes them to the new PNATCH file as it did update. And as long as you do that while you're about to start a new season, then it should change everything over correctly. So you will have a new schedule when you come through. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you guys enjoy this update and being able to customize your schedules. I forgot to note, you don't really want to try changing them in the middle of your season. It can get messy, though I do think if you change from the race you stopped at onward, it should work. I haven't tested this, but feel free to try that out if you're mid-season. Otherwise, I know this absolutely works in between seasons or starting a new one. As long as you follow the steps that I showed earlier in the video, you should be good. There's still other things I want to work on, like alternate points methods and qualifying lap times and stuff like that, which will be coming in the future, but this was a big update I wanted to get out sooner rather than later with changing the schedule, because I feel like this is an important one to be able to do. I will see you guys next time.